It's hard as hell to keep track of all the wrestling news and rumours out there these days. What's real, what's fake, what's a maybe, what's sitting somewhere in between. And it certainly doesn't help when you have activity like this going on. On Monday, Andrew Chapados, a writer for an outlet called The Blaze, tweeted the following. Sources close to the AEW Warner Bros. Discovery deal tell me AEW was on their back foot. On top of Warner's already having about 25% from the original deal, AEW likely had to give up more equity to get the new deal done. AEW apparently didn't receive any other third-party offers, which obviously hurt their negotiations. Ratings have cooled off. Whether or not that's from the product or recent controversial moves remains to be seen. I've reached out to AEW for comment and will update with applicable responses. So immediately this set off a couple of alarm bells, a couple of red flags, if you will. This gentleman, Andrew Chapados, has never tweeted about AEW before, ever in his entire Twitter history. So when he suddenly appears out of nowhere and drops a scoop that paints AEW in a not too positive light, yeah, I think it's right to ask a few questions. What he's tweeting here effectively undermines AEW's current position when it comes to perception of their seemingly upcoming television deal. He is insinuating that Warner already owns like 25% of the company and will have even more equity in it when the company's new deal is announced, whenever that may be. It seems to be imminent, but who the heck knows at the moment. He's insinuating that in order to get this over the line, AEW had to give Warner a bigger slice of the pie. He's also noting the ratings, which have cooled off, admittedly, amongst other things as well. And the third-party offer is particularly interesting because this comes at a time when it is rumoured that AEW has been in negotiations with Fox. More on that point later. Now, we live in an era where planted stories and fake stories are kind of all over the place in professional wrestling. The most notable example of these are the weekly Fast National ratings figures, which sometimes come through for AEW Rampage and AEW Collision before the actual reported ratings come through. Now, suspiciously, these numbers only seem to emerge when Collision or Rampage hasn't fared particularly well. If those shows have good weeks relative to their time slots, they simply don't appear. Ask yourself why that may be. And it certainly doesn't help that the foremost purveyor, the foremost poster of these Fast Nationals, once tweeted gleefully about receiving a charcuterie board for working with WWE on coverage. So, in this era where WWE's PR department, headed by one Chris Legentil, is extremely active all over the place, yeah, I think it's right to be a bit critical, a bit inquisitive about situations like this one we're talking about right here. And what makes it even more interesting is a Reddit post that was made on the official AEW Reddit by username KCore13. Apologies. On Tuesday. I'm just gonna go through it, summarize a few of the points, and talk about it a little bit. Long-time lurker, sometimes commenter. I decided to follow up on my comment on the Andrew Chapados SRS tweet post with this post. I honestly didn't expect to wake up this morning and see that somebody I've known for a long time would have their tweet posted here. He's talking about Chapados here. A bit of background for context. Andrew and I went to high school and college together. We didn't interact much in high school, but we knew of each other. In college, we became friends, and we were dressed in this, as we were in the same program, and we even dressed as wrestlers as part of a trio's costume for our first college Halloween party. So, if this thing is true, it stands to reason that the person offering this post knows a thing or two about Andrew Chapados. And then they continue by explaining that they kind of drifted apart following college due to their careers and differing personal opinions. But the writer continues with this big ass post. I haven't seen Andrew IRL since the pandemic, when I ran into him randomly during a bike ride and found out that he worked for Rebel News and was covering a far-right political rally happening in the park I was riding past. Anyway, what does this have to do with his tweet, AEW, WWE, and TKO? Andrew and the third member of our trio went on to create a YouTube channel, Spinning Back Fist, after college that covered MMA and UFC stuff. They did decently well for themselves, all things considered, and made a good network of UFC MMA related contacts for themselves. Remember those contacts as we continue. Andrew, working in the field for his FBF venture, and Rebel Media /News, has contacts within the UFC, now TKO network, and because of this, because of his career background, he would have been on a list to receive press/media releases from the UFC and UFC affiliates, say like the WWE. Now, of course, WWE is affiliated with the UFC. They're the sister company, effectively, of the UFC, following Endeavor's takeover in 2023. Those two companies were kind of merged together under the TKO Group banner. So it stands to reason that somebody with UFC contacts might receive the odd bit of information regarding pro wrestling in general. The poster continues. To make all of this make sense, Andrew tweeting that random tweet that Sean Ross Sapp replied to out of nowhere with zero context or history of AEW reporting more or less proves that somebody from the TKO sphere of influence is in fact leaking these false stories, which has been rumoured for some time. Andrew, by tweeting that false report out of nowhere, may have just accidentally proved the people saying WWE/TKO is spreading these false reports to be right, because he was clearly sent this information from his contacts and tweeted it. So to touch on the Sean Ross Sapp part of this, he actually quote tweeted the original report stating the following. Planted at best, outright false at worst. I can tell you in talking to people close to both sides that neither side would be making these claims themselves. So Sean's alleging that either this information was planted by somebody within WWE/TKO/the UFC, whatever, or he just made it up. Andrew Chapados just made it up and posted it online, to which there is absolutely no benefit, but that doesn't seem to stop a lot of people. And, you know, these days, when we have such prominent reporters like Sean Ross Sapp and Mike Johnson and Dave Meltzer and others, it's really not that difficult to spot when something has come out that is either planted or fake or whatever, if you just apply a little bit of creative thinking, which makes it even more irritating in a way that people keep falling for this stuff, but I digress. And just to wrap the Reddit post up here a little bit, here's the final paragraph. This is pretty big news, IMO, because again, it validates the claims the mods of this subreddit, Tony Khan and many others have been making about astroturfing and false reports for some time now. There is no other valid reason, in my opinion, for Andrew to be tweeting things like this, from what I know of him, other than it's something that was passed on to him and he was asked to post/tweet about it. So what you have here is effectively a lengthy claim suggesting that this information was passed on to be tweeted out in an effort to undermine AEW, Tony Khan, Warner, the upcoming TV deal, all of that stuff. A PR exercise, essentially. And, you know, it would be easy to look at this Reddit thread and go, hey, it's just some random person online. Like, what verification do we have of this? What validity does this hold? Why are you making a whole ass video about it, Andy Murray, you silly sausage? Well, Andrew Chapados himself effectively verified it. When he was kind of grilled about the thread and some of the points made in it on Twitter, he quote tweeted with a reply saying, Kyle, presumably the poster, is a good guy. I appreciate it. I appreciate him saying I did very well for myself. This confirms the poster's identity, and note as well, it confirms that he's read the post because he does say he did well. At the same time, no effort whatsoever to debunk the claims that this story was kind of planted and fed. And if you look at this guy's Twitter activity after posting this AEW scoop with two quotation marks right there, yeah, there's clearly something going on here. I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I don't think it's too deep a conspiracy theory to suggest that stories like this breaking from a reporter who's never touched AEW in the past, at a time when AEW is seemingly on the verge of announcing its new TV deal, is some kind of coincidence. It definitely benefits to apply a bit of critical thinking to these situations. The facts of the matter are that AEW is seemingly on the verge of announcing something new, right? Extension with Warner, that partnership probably going to continue, and at the same time this comes while rumours the AEW may have something going on with Fox as well. Now WWE, they may feel a bit smarted by that. It's not that AEW is going to run them out of business or anything silly like that. They're not going to, you know, truly rival them in terms of ratings and attendances and stuff, certainly not within the next decade. But if they're moving off of Fox and AEW is moving on, even if it's on FS1 or whatever, then yeah, you know, their egos are going to be bruised. Their pride is going to be hurting a little bit. And yeah, that might give them motivation to put out silly stuff like this. WWE since the 80s has been anti-competition, vehemently so, and it's kind of naive to suggest otherwise. Look at Vince's drive to run the territories out of business in the 80s. Look at WCW. Fast forward, look at promotions like Evolve, who came under WWE's banner and then suddenly didn't exist anymore. Look at what happened to the British Indies at the turn of this decade. This is how they operate. They are the biggest company in the game. They are sharks. They do not like competition. They do not like other promotions coming along and taking their market share. And when that happens, they act aggressively. They do so in a great many ways, from trying to impact promotions directly to campaigns of PR, where they spread information like this. And like I've said, I don't think this is any coincidence at all that this is happening just as Tony Khan has got his finger over a send button announcing a new television deal. At the end of the day, look, if you're an AEW fan, you have no reason to worry about any of this. The promotion is going to be absolutely fine. It's going to secure its long-term financial future. It's probably going to move into profitability with this deal. So, hey, look, if you enjoy and watch the programming, you can just ignore stuff like this. But it is important to consider what these reports are and where they're coming from, in my opinion. Of course, that's what this is. We're just kind of pulling the threads and looking at the evidence here. But hey, and if you don't like AEW, just don't watch it. It's really simple. It's really easy. You have a choice to make a consumer. As a consumer, your choice can be just push the other button on your TV. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. You don't have to like it. But hey, look, I'm Andy. You know that already. I've already said that, but I'll see you later. This has been a wacky conspiracy theory. Bye.